Well, hi there. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to our Center Court session on the Executive MBA. Today we have two recent graduates from two of the very best European programs, the London Business School and HEC Paris. Let me introduce you to our first candidate here, Alex Matheson. He's a lawyer in London, and obviously he went to LBS. And then we have Ilda Matani, who works for Schneider Electric and who went to HEC Paris and graduated in June. Congratulations to both of you for getting through the program. So let's start with you, Alex. Tell me why you decided to get an executive MBA. I mean, you are a lawyer in London, and that's an unusual background, but I do know that doctors and lawyers form a fairly big contingent of students in executive MBA programs. Why did you choose to go?
So for me, I think there were a few reasons. One is, I think we all have an obligation, a bit of a debt to society, let's say, to make sure that our level of education matches our level of intelligence. We should all be trying to make sure we can contribute to the world to the best extent possible, and that requires education. I don't think that would be controversial. Why did I decide to do an MBA or the executive MBA? Well, for me, I wanted to try and think about my life in 10 years' time. What sort of impact can I make in 10 years? I've got no idea where my career will be. I've got no idea what my life will look like. And we can sort of tell that if we look back 10 years, it's easy to join the dots looking backwards, but it's very, very difficult to try and predict in 10 years' time where we'll be. So for me, the reason for the EMBA was to try and work out what will help me contribute to the best extent possible in 10 years, wherever I might end up in my life. So that was.
You've been a lawyer. How long have you been a lawyer?
So law is my second career. I was in software programming first. I was in tech, and I changed career to become a lawyer. So I retrained, and this is a second career for me.
Great. Ilda, how about you? Why did you decide to get an executive MBA?
Oh yeah, it's so I really I like the way Alex put it together. I think from my perspective too, if I look at my timeline and the rest, well, I would say the couple of decades that I still need to work, I just thought probably like a company, when you work in a company, you see companies constantly being challenged by the external environment. Like we say, the business environment is extremely challenging and moving all the time, and they desperately need to innovate or to transform themselves. And if they don't do, what happens to them? Well, I learned in my MBA through my specialization that at least in the States, those companies which were not able to innovate or to transform themselves, well, at 85%, they would die in the next decade. So I think for an executive or an employee, it would be exactly the same. If you're not really thinking ahead of how to prepare your own career, because the business environment is changing, because the world is so much changing, and you're not capable of putting yourself up to date, well, you might be missing something important. So for me, entering the executive MBA is really being myself up to date with the right knowledge and thinking ahead of the game, preparing myself for the next decade and even beyond that. And I think I made the right choice.
That's great to hear. And your current job at Schneider Electric is what?
It's a great job. It's a fabulous job. And I'll be really very honest. I can't say anything else other than it would have been impossible for me to access the job I am today without going through the program of the executive MBA I went. And I can talk more about it if you ask me the question afterwards, but definitely the specialization, which was more on the data driven, the digital transformation, but digging more really how data and AI driven strategies can transform businesses, is exactly what provided me with the possibility to enter the world of AI. I'm today working in the AI Hub, which is a very recent entity within Schneider Electric, Schneider Electric is an energy management specialist across the world. And we have built today, or are building today, and reinforcing the AI and data-driven capabilities to support our customers in enhancing their solutions in this domain. So I handle a team of data scientists and consultants to deliver projects in data and AI. And nothing would have made me legitimate to enter this without doing the right specialization. So for me, it's a career change.
Right. So were you a Schneider before the program?
No.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
I rejoined Schneider Electric 3 months ago. I started my career within Schneider Electric back 13 years ago. And then I exited the company to work for other companies. And then I did the Executive MBA at HEC Paris to come back to this company to really connect business and AI worlds together. But AI and data-driven, it would never be possible to work without a connection to the domain, to the business, actually. So the more we know about the business, the better it is for AI and data to work together. So for me, it was a perfect match.
That's great to hear that you're able to make this important career transition thanks to the Executive MBA program.
And to the specialization.
Yes, that's very fascinating. Now, Alex,
because
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that the specialization is one thing, but then at least for the Executive MBA at HEC Paris, we also have the capstone, which is a 9-month project that we have to execute in a company. My decision was to connect the specialization domain with the capstone. So by plugging them together, it really made me legitimate to continue in the direction of the data and AI world.
Yeah, fantastic. Now Alex, being in London, you had a number of different opportunities to enter an Executive MBA program. What appealed to you about the London Business School program in particular?
I like the way you phrased it, because it's correct. There are a range of schools and there are many excellent schools. And for me, London Business School was top of the list for me, but it doesn't necessarily mean it will be for everyone. I think there are practical factors. You mentioned geography a little bit. So at this stage of my life, my geography is in the United Kingdom and London. So I was looking at primarily UK schools. And I think for many people making a decision, of course, you will have spreadsheets and you will have all sorts of tables and comparison charts. It's very, very difficult to compare schools, and actually any top school is going to be brilliant.
Yes.
And we see lots of rational people choosing top schools all the time. The main factor for me was the character of the school and the culture, the cultural fit. And I think for anyone who's lucky enough to have the choice of top schools, then looking at the character of the school and test it out, go and visit, see how you feel around the place, as long as all the practical boxes are ticked. For me, that was the way that I chose the program, beyond practical considerations.
What were some of the boxes that LBS checked for you?
Well, I mean, if we're thinking of education for ourselves, especially executive level, we can try and think in the same way that we might think of education for our children. So I don't know if you have children, John.
Oh, yes.
And okay, so when you're thinking of education for your children, you're not thinking, what is going to give me the best return on investment when the child's grown up and when I'm old, and will the child look after me? You think, what is the highest quality education I can give my child within my practical limits? What's available to me, and what is the very best quality I can give my child, where I think my child will fit in well culturally? And for me, that was the attraction of LBS. For me, it was very top of my list. It's not going to be the top of everyone's list because people have different preferences, but that was very much the approach. for
Great.
me.
Yep. And Ilda, I wonder what the key factors were in choosing HEC Paris for you.
Yeah, for me, it's very objective and straight to the point. HEC Paris is a very well branded school in Europe and in France. You know, it's a school that was really close to my home, but I didn't make the choice because it was so close to my home. I think I looked at objective elements like the ranking of the school. Where is the school ranking today? I think that's really important when you're investing time and money to go through a very ambitious program that's going to take 16 months of your time. And in parallel, you have a full-time job. You really need to make sure that that's looked up. And then I envisioned also the alumni network. How big is the alumni network? And I went a little bit deeper. I spoke to a large panel of alumni to see how they had lived their MBA journey. And the more I was talking to them, the more I got driven and enthusiastic to enter the school, because you have a connection on the mindset of the people who are frequenting the school. And then overall, of course, what is the framework, or what is it that we're learning there? How up to date they are. So going through the program and understanding about the pillars in general management, the capstone project, and the large panel of specializations, I thought that was really a good alternative for myself.
Sounds like you did your homework.
Yeah, exactly. Do your homework. Yeah.
So Ilda, tell me what the learning experience was like. I mean, if someone were to meet you at a party and say, I'm thinking about going for an executive MBA, just as you did, what was it really like? What would you say?
I would prone the two sides. I would say definitely it's a lot of hard work, especially if you're having a family and small children. It was my case. I'm a working mom, and I started the executive MBA with a 3-year-old son.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had to explain to my son that I was going back to school, but in terms of role model, that was something he could eventually associate it and see me also work during the weekends. It's a lot of hard work, I would say. It's incredible learning, but I would say it's a lot of fun because you have so many friends. And if you get on very well with your cohort, you can discover a lot about yourself, how you work under difficult conditions, when you're stressed, managing a really tough workload. And then at the same time, I would say make sure that you have put in place the right logistics, because if you don't put in place the right logistics, it can be really tiring. But if you're well structured and if you're doing this with motivation, it's an incredible journey. And I would say you go for it. Absolutely. And you can have a formidable experience and a top grade.
Alex, what was it like for you?
So for me, practically it was during COVID. It was probably unlike anything anyone in the future will experience or anyone in the past. So, but the London Business School program, it's a weekend program. And it means that even if you don't want to bother your employer to support you, you can still do the course using annual leave on Fridays and then weekends to study. So it's possible to fit it into your life, even if you don't want to lean on your employer. I mean, lots of employers are supportive, and that's fantastic. So practically a weekend program. What was the experience like? It's very difficult to inspire an adult. So John, Ilda, it's very difficult for me and either of you to walk into a room and walk out thinking that was absolutely inspirational. There was a little bit of magic in there, and that's what the lectures were like. Not all of them, some of them were predictably dry. I think business schools have to do that, but some of the lectures and talks really were quite inspirational. And I think for us and the audience, I hope there's a very high bar to being able to say that. I certainly feel a great debt to the school, because you join things and you participate, wanting to give and wanting to contribute and wanting your own contribution to be equal to what you're receiving. I felt overwhelmed by what I was receiving from the school. So a magical experience, and I don't say that lightly.
I love magic. Now, give us a sense of the structure of the program. You mentioned Fridays and Saturdays. Is it the typical alternating Friday and Saturday schedule? And I know there may have been changes here because of the pandemic, but what is the actual structure of the program?
So at London Business School and other schools may be different. There are core programs, the core things you would expect an executive MBA to have. Those are generally run in parallel, although there are different academic terms where different modules are introduced, let's say. So a number of modules run in parallel. For me, it was Fridays and Saturdays, sometimes Sundays, every second weekend. There is a global experience, which is a trip, an international trip, which is longer. It takes place over quite a number of days. For anyone who's trying to plan how to fit it into your life, because I think that's what your question's alluding to, the tip I would have for anyone is really get the examination and assessment dates as early as you can and focus on organizing your life around those primarily. And then as a secondary consideration, make sure you run lectures, make sure you attend lectures in time. So for anyone, I think that's the most helpful thing I can share.
Where was your global trip?
Mine was in Argentina.
Oh.
And it was, I'm not a football fan, but it was at the time of the World Cup. So it was,
oh, wow.
It was really quite special.
So that was an added bonus. Did LBS actually get you tickets to the World Cup?
No, and I didn't ask. So I don't know if it would have. They might well have done, but I didn't ask them.
Right. And Ilda, the structure of the HEC Paris program, how does it work?
So I think we have, there are several programs within HEC Paris. One of them is also similar to Alex's one, so Fridays and Saturdays. I didn't go for this one. I actually went for the English modular program, which is really every 2 months, 10 days full-time on campus, including weekends.
Right.
It's a very specific and peculiar one, but I found it really to be fit for my agenda, and for every person who would like to participate, who would like to do it, it's important that you get an alignment with your company. Your boss and your company should be really in alignment with this and agreeing, because it means that 10 days every 2 months you're not there from 8 to very late in the evening. And eventually that was also coordinated or fulfilled with e-learnings that we have, and a lot of assignments, readings and pre-readings that we would do all the time. So I'll be very honest with you, I sometimes had the feeling that I was doing a full-time MBA rather than a part-time MBA, because when you couple the 10 days on campus plus all the additional extra work that you have to do in between, it's quite a bit of work.
Were there online sessions in between the in-person weeks?
Yes, there were online sessions and online lessons, plus the assignments that you had to prepare before going back on campus. So practically is really full. It's filled with content, but it's quite appropriate for executives who, like me, prefer to be 10 days focused, and then the rest of the time when we manage our time between our jobs and families and the online sessions.
And given what you said earlier about your capstone and your specialization that helped you with your career transition, I would think that your favorite classes had to do with digital transformation. Am I right?
Well, that's a really good question. I will be very honest with you. I think I have been one of the few participants very indecisive until the very end about the choice of my specialization. There are a few specializations options, I would say, within at least our HEC program, Executive MBA. goes from energy, finance, sustainability, digital transformation, and so on. And I was really very unsure on which one to pick because it's an important decision.
Yeah.
So I went through a lot of questions. I don't think digital transformation was my favorite class, to go back to your question.
What was your favorite class?
I really enjoyed the class of business environment with Jeremy Gez, actually, and I think he will be honored to hear this if he's hearing, but his classes were absolutely fabulous. It's like an eye opener, I would say, to really understand we really have the Red Queen on the back, and if we don't do something about it, well, we might be in trouble. So hurry up to innovate, hurry up to change, and hurry up to plug these changes as quickly as possible. So yeah, definitely not the digital transformation, but a real discovery on what's really happening as a mega trend in the data and AI space. Everybody's talking about it at the moment. I think I was writing my thesis or my project spot on at that very moment. And I still remember the academic director who was telling me, imagine if your armchair or the chair you're sitting right now, in I don't know how much time it's going to be possible to send me a message on the status of, are you feeling excited? Are you feeling relaxed? Are you feeling afraid? Etc. etc. It was a piece of a sneak peek of information.
Alex, your favorite course taken? I imagine magic was created in it.
Well, magic isn't a term that I use frequently, and I haven't used it for some decades. So real credit to LBS for that. I found the change management course really quite exceptional, and the strategy courses were exceptional as well. I was really captivated to learn about the importance of managing social change alongside technical.
Right.
And we can all plan technical changes, and we sort of know that the social side of a business or organization also needs to change, and that needs to be planned too. But just how much of an effect that can have was quite eye-opening for me. I could go on with many other things. The strategy courses were exceptional. I'll try not to name professors because I would have a long list if I were to name professors.
Now, one of the benefits of the Executive MBA program is, in fact, that you do it while you're still at work. So what that typically means is that you can actually apply what you learn and show some immediate benefit at work. And Alex, I wonder if there's an example of that where you picked up something that was very beneficial and you could bring it right to the workplace.
Certainly, and also the things we learn about ourselves from the social science elements of the module, things we learn about our own behavior, our interpersonal dynamics, which can also help us on our personal journey. I practice law, and it's quite unusual in law for anyone really to have an MBA or any sort of business degree, or even know what one is. So I wasn't in the camp where I was running back to the office and solving problems with spreadsheets.
True.
But certainly.
Ilda, how about you? I'm sure
I love your question. I really love your question. And I think you're completely right to say it's a great advantage, and it's just a pity not to be able to do it. I have a few examples. I took actually 3 classes, and I still remember about them. For me, were the ESG class, or corporate social responsibility, or environmental, social, and governance, if you will. That was the first example, and I think my professor today would be really delighted because she knows about the story. But because I was lucky enough to be in a very traditional entity, which was very much transactional, sales oriented, and had not put in place let's say, the innovation stage where they wanted to go in the next couple of years, where I was ending. There was for me a large domain of this traditional company to come up with recommendations on things to do differently. So I picked the sustainability axis. There wasn't any sustainability axis or a program in place. And actually the letter, the content, I sent it to the segment president as a roadmap internally to recommend a plan in environmental, social, and governance for the company. And further, in the business strategy course, I also wrote another essay that was still dedicated to my company, very desperate to change internally. And I applied the axes of business strategy to how the company would look like internally. And I also applied the future of work course with all the updates that we had post-COVID and the AI domain of how the future of work would be different within this company as a recommendation. And they were all retained internally, which I think it's great. I'm not working anymore in this company, but it was great to apply the theoretical learnings to the place, because in my case, I was lucky. I think the company was really in the need of changing it, at least in those pillars that I saw. So it's really what we should be doing. Actually, when you learn something, 80% of what you learn, if you don't use it at work, goes away. So the only way to really retain the information is to apply it operationally somewhere so that it remains at least in your head. It's very difficult to do, but whenever you can, it's really important.
So, Alex, let me ask you one of my favorite questions that I ask graduates of higher education programs. If you were to identify the 3 hallmarks of your experience, what would the 3 be? And when I say hallmark, I mean something that will resonate with you for many years, maybe throughout your entire career. What would those 3 things be?
So I said earlier that I wouldn't mention professors, but having prompted me, I think the things that I'll remember for a very long time are the people, the individuals, both the cohort. I met wonderful people, and I've still got tremendous friendships and acquaintances and relationships with counterpart scholars from the school, but also professors. And the things I'll remember most is just how much they wanted to share their wisdom and knowledge, how much they wanted to help people grow. Andrew Lickerman at London Business School was absolutely fabulous as a professor. Dominic Holder as well, he was the strategy professor, and Jean-Pierre Benoit. Now I've stopped at 3, but I will remember those and many other professors who really try and invest themselves to help the scholars grow and develop. And I will remember that. Right.
Ilda, how about you? What are 3 things that really stood out for you in the HEC program?
Yeah, the 3 things that if I will wake up one day and in 10 years and I will revert back, what I remember, I'd say my friends, really friends for life. It's really important, because when you build those relationships and you work and you stay in a cohort for 16 to 18 months, you really build from friends for out and friends for life. And I feel like today I have an advisory board just for myself. In case I have problems or any issue, I can tap in that advisory board. So friends for life, fun. It's a lot of fun because we had a lot of fun together. And then I would say it was a lot of work. It was definitely a lot of work. And I remember the amount of work and effort that I had to put for the entire program. So it needs a lot of perseverance and motivation. Otherwise, it's impossible to go from A to Z through the program. So friends, fun, and work.
That's great. Well, let me thank the 2 of you for a really helpful session. I think everyone out there who's interested in getting an executive MBA was learn a lot from your experience. Both of you seem really gung-ho and have no remorse at having done all that hard work. I mean, to hear a lawyer use the word magic in and of itself tells you all you need to know about the London Business School program. And Ilda, for you, it's really delightful to know that that program helped you transition into a whole new career area where clearly you're passionate and you're fulfilled, and it's great to see. So Alex and Ilda, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to spend this time with you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
And for all you out there, okay, you know, here are two great examples of graduates of executive MBA programs that are top of the field, HEC Paris and London Business School. Can't get much better than that. And really two great ambassadors for those programs. I hope you enjoyed our session. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. You're watching Center Court on Executive MBA.